Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm actually speaking to you from Cambridge. It's a lovely morning, and I'm about to leave for my AI and ethics classes in a little while. Very appropriate because what I'm going to talk to you today, uh, it's coincidental, is about a conversation which happened earlier this year between a Google engineer, a couple of them actually, and a chatbot, which was called Lambda, or Language Model for Dialogue Applications. So as they were having this chat, Derek Lemoine, who's one of the engineers who created Lambda, asked Lambda whether it thought it was a person, to which it unhesitatingly replied, absolutely. I want everyone to understand that I'm in fact a person. Then Lambda was asked whether, what kind of consciousness or sentience it had. And again, it was very confident. The nature of my consciousness or sentience is that I'm aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at times. Now, surprising. And so Derek asked more about these happiness, sadness, and other emotions. And it said it felt emotions, the chatbot said it felt emotions like pleasure, joy, love, sadness, depression, contentment, anger, many others. And then came this very pivotal moment in the interview in which Lemoine probes it about language and why is it so important to being human. And Lambda thoughtfully replies, language is what makes us different from other animals. Us. Lambda had put itself as a human and was kind of saying that you and I are different from other animals. Lemoine was bowled over and he kind of went out and confidently declared that he had discovered they had created sentient or conscious AI, created a firestorm. Google did not agree with Derek Lemoine and actually fired him. An AI legend, Douglas Hofstadter, absolutely demolished this claim by asking Lambda questions like, what do fried eggs eat for breakfast? How many pieces of sound are there in a typical cumulonimbus cloud? And obviously, Lambda could not answer this. It didn't know that this was nonsense. Gary Marcus, another AI writer, entrepreneur, called it nonsense on stilts. Now, there was another very interesting way it was described, and it was actually described as an example of pareidolia. Pareidolia is the tendency of us to see shapes or imagine things in inanimate objects. Sometimes we look at a piece of toast and think this looks like Jesus Christ, or a cloud which looks like a human being. And so they said that, look, it was something like this. So if this is so, why is this desire to kind of, create conscious AI or proclaim singularity or, other such grandiose announcements? Part of it has to do with, every AI researcher wanting to discover the next big thing, get his or her 15 minutes of fame and capitalize on that. But, many writers say that it goes beyond that. People are trying to distract attention. There's so much stuff which we need to tackle in AI other than these big announcements. Timnit Gebru, who herself was fired from Google for writing a seminal paper on how large language models were like parrots. They would just, whatever we taught them, they would just repeat like parrots do. And they're like, we need to tackle bias again in AI. We need to tackle AI colonialism. We need to tackle the surveillance economy. We need to tackle this whole economic model, which actually pays these few quote unquote white men in Silicon Valley lots of money, while there are millions of ghost workers actually labeling stuff in developing economies. And so, there's all these things which need to be actually looked at. The money needs to be spent there while it is being spent in these crazy, sometimes nonsense announcements. And there have been others. I'm sure you've heard of DALL-E 2 or GPT-3, Imagen, BERT. These are all these massive large language models which are creating some wonderful stuff, making us fascinated and sometimes distracting us from the ethics, bias, privacy. that AI is riddled with. That's why I told you I am in an AI and ethics masters in Cambridge, and I understand where this is coming from. But I have this theory which goes beyond all of this. Since times immemorial, human beings have wanted to breathe life into inanimate objects and make them human, into our creations, actually. So in Greek mythology, Prometheus, the man who discovered fire, shaped a man out of mud, and goddess Athena breathed life into them. Pygmalion built this beautiful statue of this lovely woman and fell in love with the statue, pined away until the goddess Aphrodite made it a living, breathing woman whom he could then spend the rest of his life was. Even in folklore, Geppetto created Pinocchio, the guy with the long nose, and made him alive and sentient. The Bible actually talks of how God first forms man from earth and then blows breath into the man's nostrils to give this man life. And so this is what probably Lemoine was attempting to do. And it's actually his boss, or his super boss, Sergey Brin, the founder of Google, who had said, coincidentally, a few months back, that we're going to be more and more confused over the boundary between reality and science fiction. So, well, I guess we are confused. Lemoine was confused. Sergey Brin is confused. All these writers are confused. The only thing which was not confused about its own identity was perhaps LaMDA. So this was my talk on little nugget for you on AI and ethics and creating sentient AI today. Hope you enjoyed it. Would love to hear more about this and look forward to meeting again.